The setting up of a new Ministry of Power is raising critical questions. The minority in Parliament says we don't need a new ministry when the existing Ministry of Energy and Petroleum could perform the same function. So why announce the setting up of a new ministry only days after the government's budget was presented to Parliament? What would it cost to have a new functioning ministry with staff and logistics? Do we really need a new ministry to solve the power problems facing the country? This is today's big story with me, Stephen Enti. Well, as you said, the minority said we don't need a new ministry, and you know, there are key questions that we have to answer. And we're joined on the line now by Katie Hammond, who is the MP for Adansi Formula. Good evening, sir.
I'm not the MP for Adansi Formula. You check your records. You don't just make this kind of statements on opinion. I mean, I have some responsibility for the work you do.
Right.
I'm not. Just make sure that you have your references right. What is the question you want me to deal with? I'm
saying that you have been quoted as saying the problem within the sector really has nothing to do with the composition of the ministry itself. It's neither here nor there. I mean, can you explain?
Yes, of course. Yes, good evening to you on this. Yes, what I've been saying consistently since this matter came up is that we all know, and I don't call it challenges, there are fundamental problems that we face with our power situation in the country. As far as I know the fact, it's really, there's nothing to do, as you said, the composition of the ministry. I mean, the combination of power and petroleum together into one Ministry of Energy and Petroleum. The point is that we have institutions under the ministry which are respectively responsible for either generation or distribution, of course, transmission. And so the fact that we are in the difficulties that we find ourselves in, it's not the basis for the creation of a new ministry. VRA is the institution which is responsible for generation. And they do not produce the power. My point is that the new Ministry of Power won't be able to ensure that ECG distributes electricity. It's simplicity. VRA under the old Ministry of Energy or under the new Ministry of Power would have to produce for there, or produce or to generate, for there to be some electricity to distribute. As it is, from what I've come to know, they are facing fundamental difficulties and they are not able to produce adequately to meet the demands of the nation. I mean, I've made the point that I understand that my brother, and I tell you something, I've known him longer than anybody in our current parliament. I've known him since I was about 12 years or so. We were growing up in the northern region. And he's a formidable person. He has all the competence. If there's anybody who can claim to be able to run a power industry or power ministry in the country, Donko should be the person. He has all the credentials. My problem is that if he goes in there and
Right, we apologize. We had a little technical hitch which took us completely off, and we lost Katie Hammond earlier. But Katie Hammond is back on the line. We're grateful, sir, that you could hold on and we got you back on. So you were explaining the reason why, in your opinion, the formation of the new power ministry is completely unnecessary.
Yes, I mean, that's not how I discuss issues. I'm not prepared to say that it's completely unnecessary. The president has got a prerogative to create whatever ministry if he thinks that it would help in his administration. The point I make is that in the circumstances of this matter, the circumstances of the challenges that we face in the country with respect to power, it is surprising that the decision is simply to go and split up the ministry. Because as I indicated, the problem is not with the ministry as it is. We have institutions under the ministry which perform different functions. VRA is the institution entrusted to generate electricity in the country. And then we have grid coal transmitting for UCG to distribute. I mean, everybody realizes that we simply are not getting electricity. And I am telling you, as a matter of fact, that the problem as it is with generation. And that, again, is not because we don't have enough installed generation capacity. It's simply because the machines are sitting idly by. We have 2,843 or so installed capacity, megawatts of installed capacity. Now, as I talk to you, about 1,000 megawatts of that is lying by, doing practically nothing, generating nothing. See, so if in the circumstances of this you create a new ministry, what is that ministry going to do?
But you do.
I mean, I've maintained that my brother is going to have been nominated to be the minister. But the point is, if the institution responsible for generation, which is VRA, is not able to provide, my brother's ministry will not be able to supervise anything. There won't be any distribution. You see, the problem really is that this VRA has not got the money to buy the fuel. These guys do not have the money to buy crude oil to generate enough electricity to supply to the whole country. That is the problem that we are confronted with. It's nothing to do with the Amabo's ministry. Amabo's hasn't got $500 million that VRA requires to procure crude and make sure that there's adequate power in the country. The cabinet would have to take responsibility for the finance minister to look for the money to give to VRA to generate electricity. Wherein lies the reason for creating of a new ministry? That is my worry.
Right. Katie Hammond, we're grateful for these concerns that these opinions that you've expressed. I beg your pardon. And we're also joined on the other telephone line by Mahama Hudu, who is an energy policy expert. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
So, I mean, you heard Katie Hammond raise concerns about the setting up of this ministry. Would you agree, in the first place, that we need restructuring in the power sector in the first place?
Okay, thank you very much, joining us for the opportunity, and good evening to fellow Ghanaians. You know, it is within government prerogative to either merge ministries if he thinks they are not performing like he has done with the communication and then the information ministry. It is also within government prerogative to create ministries like what we saw in 2001 when ex-President Kufuor created the Women and Children Ministry.
That's right.
Yes, if the president so feel that maybe a particular ministry is not performing or there's a need to eradicate one particular ministry, it is prerogative. But however, when you look at the recent happenings in the energy sector, it has got nothing to do with the structure of the ministry. Maybe fine, you can go into the ministry and restructure maybe reorganize it, but not necessarily creating an additional ministry. For me, if within the ministry there's maybe you realize that there's some department that you need, the president has maybe directed a particular department to be created to take responsibility of certain key functions of the ministry, but not create entire different ministry, power ministry as the case is now. Of course, yes. When you go into the sector, you realize that the problems that you are facing right now are cabinet and not.
Hello, sir. Yeah.
End of the day, at medium to long-term issues or policies that they are looking at. That's why we are facing this current problem. Because if you are basically at like corporation losses, producing losses, and all that, government is not looking at them. You know?
Right.
Our facilities here, but we are not taking them.
Right, Mr. Hudu, we're grateful for your time. I'm sorry that we've run out of time, so we'll quickly have to go to the next caller. Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam is Executive Director of ASAP, who is joining us. Doc, we're grateful that you could make time to join us. Now, I need to find out from you that you already have said that the reassigning of the ECG boss to the Energy Ministry, and that subsequently he'll be given a new task is good. I mean, you also agree that the power sector needs restructuring. But does this restructuring sit in well with the formation of a new power ministry?
Yeah, I think that the restructuring of the power sector will involve a lot more than what we are seeing today. But I think that we must begin elsewhere. We actually started the restructuring in the 80s and 90s when we developed the power sector reform. Unfortunately, we have not been bold to implement some of the recommendations, in the reform of the sector. But what we are doing today, I would say, aimed at addressing two objectives. The first one is the short-term challenges of the power sector need to be addressed so that we can put a stop or at least be able to reduce the doomsday we are going through.
But Doc, what do you term short-term challenges? I mean, what's happening? Have been with us for a while, so do we still call it short-term?
Yes, I mean short-term because every Ghanaian wants to have reliable supply of electricity. Today, we want it ended, and so if we have to address them, we need to have a set of measures that will address them, which are not going to be the same as addressing the medium to long-term challenges.
That's right.
And that has to do with increasing generation expansion. That has to do with securing, reliable supply of gas for our thermal plant. That has to do with reducing the distribution losses. About 20% of the power produced by VRA and distributed through ECG is lost through the transformers and the old cables. And so these are the long-term, medium to long-term challenges. But the short-term challenges we have today, how do we procure light crude oil to ensure that most of the plants that are idle are brought on stream? They are operational. VRA doesn't have the money. They need about 500 million US dollars to be able to buy crude oil and put all the plants into operation. Okay? If we can find that money, then we will be able to minimize the load shedding we are going through. And that is what I mean by short-term challenges.
Right.
And so the creation of the ministry comes into focus here. I think that the ministry needs proper planning and coordination, which the Ministry of Energy today is unable to do.
Let's get it right. So it means that you are in favor of the creation of this new power ministry.
Totally in favor. I am totally in favor of creating a new ministry, because the Ministry of Energy at the moment is so much loaded. Look at the sector agencies under the ministry. Look at the companies under the ministry. Power sector alone has, Gridco, VRA, ECG. And these are companies that are 100% owned by government. And so their financial, requirements, their managerial requirements, their policy requirements, planning requirements are done by a ministry which also has the petroleum sector, which has as many companies as the power sector. We're talking about TOR, we're talking about BOS, we're talking about DNPC, mention them. And so this is why I believe the president said that he's creating the ministry to give a sharp focus to the power sector issues. And I think that is very important for us. Some ministries that are operational have just one sector. Look at tourism, for instance. Apart from Ghana Tourism Board, what else do we have? And there are equally other ministries which do not have the load that the Ministry of Energy is carrying. So it is not surprising that the Ministry of Energy is confused. They are neither able to address power sector issues, nor are they able to address petroleum sector issues. And this is why I support that having a ministry which will give, that sharper focus, to because the most important challenge, facing our country today is power. Okay? And because we are facing this problem, we need to be able to address the medium to long-term challenges. It is because we didn't address the challenges 10 years ago, we didn't address it 5 years ago, we didn't address them, 20 years ago. That is why we have the challenges today. And so I think that the creation of the new ministry may not help with mitigating the short-term challenges that we have, because it is about money, and we have to find the money for VRA.
But in the long term, you think it's good?
Long term, I think that the ministry will come with proper planning, well coordinated, with proper focus, and so that we can put an end to this doom so, which is going to challenge.
But talking about proper planning and all that, I mean, the announcement that a new power ministry is set up was made just days, about 4 days after the government budget and financial statement was presented to Parliament. So this creation was not included in the budget. There was no budgetary allocation made for it. These are questions of cost. You don't think that it was knee-jerk?
I think that the Ministry of Finance has moved from activity budget. There are programs budgeted for power sector, programs budgeted for petroleum sector, and some the new ministry. So I don't think there should be a problem. What I think there is a problem, where I think there is a problem is that even without the separation of power into a ministry, what the budget provides for the Ministry of Energy, as it is today, is not sufficient. It does not give a good indication or a serious indication of how the government wants to address the short-term, power sector challenges.
Yeah.
So even without the separation, we will still have problems. Let me tell you, for instance, that apart from the fact that the budget for the Ministry of Energy is not enough, about 50 to 60% of the budget is donor funded. And you know that donor funding is volatile. It can come, it may fail.
Yeah.
Okay? In addition to that, most of the funds coming from donors are going towards rural electrification. And about small of the proportion of the donor funding goes to some few transmission projects. And so without separating the Ministry of Power, we will still have difficulty, addressing the power sector challenges with the 2015 budget.
So really, what are your expectations?
The separation, I think, will help, in bringing up proper planning, coordinating those plans, mobilizing resources so that we can address the medium to long-term challenges.
So what are your expectations of this ministry when the ministry start operating by, after Parliament has passed it to carry on? What exactly do you expect them to do in the short term and perhaps in the medium to long term to resolve the challenges?
First of all, I think that the man nominated by the president is a very serious-minded person. I know Dr. Kombe Donko is a man who wants results, and I can, direct you to the work he did at the Petroleum Commission. Within a short period, the man transformed the Petroleum Commission into an enviable, world-class commission as it is today. And so I have no doubt about his competence, but he will never succeed if the resources he needs to work with are not there. And part of the resources will have to be mobilized by himself. He has to use his leverage, his experience, his competence to mobilize the resources to begin to address the challenges of the sector head on. So I have confidence in him, but I think that, for the next 1 or 2 years, he will have to struggle to settle down. Right.
Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, we're grateful for your time on today's Big Story, and we're grateful to Honorable Katie Amon, who also joined us. Unfortunately, we couldn't exhaust all the guests that we had arranged for the show because of our technical hitch. I'm afraid we'll have to draw the curtains here, and we'll return with an interactive segment with beautiful Marian Turi. Do stay.